Hello, hello, hello. So if there are people in the back, if you could come forward and start finding a seat, because we're going to be starting in another, 5 minutes or so? Ah oui. Pour les gens qui sont au fond de la salle, veuillez vous approcher, trouver une chaise, vous asseoir, vous installer. Nous allons commencer dans 5 minutes à peu près.
I don't mind hiding. Hopefully that's what we'll talk a little bit about. What's happening within the sector, and then I'll speak a little bit about the specifics that we're dealing with here too. So I've been able to reorganize a couple things and happy to stay. So yeah, absolutely.
So good evening, everybody. Good evening. This is our call to order, or our welcome. And I'd ask that if you're in the room, that you please take your seats. And if you're not in the room and you're online, welcome. We are just about to begin. Donc, je m'appelle Patricia Harewood et je suis ici sur le territoire non cédé des peuples Anishinaabe. Et nous sommes reconnaissants des contributions des Anishinaabe à nos communautés. Et aujourd'hui, au fait que nous sommes ici à la Galerie SOR et nous nous rassemblons pour cette assemblée publique communautaire organisée par le comité Restore CHUO ou Restaurer CHUO. Ça fait plus de 20 ans que je suis co-animatrice d'une émission qui s'appelle Black on Black sur les ondes de CHUO. Et je pense que nous avons beaucoup de personnes ici dans la salle et en ligne qui ont participé longuement pendant plusieurs années à la radio communautaire. Donc, bienvenue à tous et à tous.
So welcome to you all. We, of course, are on the unceded territory of the Algonquin and Anishinaabe. My name is Adrian Harewood, and it is a delight for me to be here with you to participate in this event, which is really aimed at trying to restore CHUO. My own connection with CHUO goes back about 31 years to the mid-1990s, where I also was with Black on Black, a program started by none other than Jackie Stewart, who is with us here this evening. So we are among friends and colleagues and comrades, and today is really about trying to come up with ways to preserve an institution that has contributed mightily to this community. And so for the next 2 hours, we're going to be engaging in a conversation about how to do that. We have people here who can talk about some of the needs of CHUO at this moment and can also speak about some of the governance issues that we're going to have to be wrestling with. So we encourage you to be engaged and to ask questions and to stay with us. And also I just wanted to extend greetings to those people who are online this evening. Thanks so much for joining us.
Donc, comme Adrien, mon frère, vient de dire, l'objectif de l'événement, c'est vraiment de s'assurer que les bénévoles de la station et les membres de la communauté comprennent parfaitement la situation de la station. On va présenter évidemment une vue d'ensemble de qu'est-ce qui est arrivé à CHUO et des différentes façons dont chacune pourra s'impliquer et soutenir les efforts de reconstruction de la station. C'est aussi une occasion pour poser des questions, pour partager vos idées. On est ici en conversation, comme mon frère vient de dire. Et on va aussi présenter les prochaines étapes et inviter les participants et participantes à s'inscrire pour recevoir des mises à jour. Donc, tout le monde est bienvenu. J'espère que tout le monde va contribuer. Nous avons aussi des invités ou des membres de la famille communautaire qui sont ici avec nous. Et donc, nous allons commencer.
Okay.
Merci.
So it gives me great pleasure to introduce our first speaker, our first presenter this evening, and he is Barry Rook. And Barry is no stranger to anyone who's been involved in community radio in this country over the last 20 years. Barry has been the executive director for the National Campus and Community Radio Association since May of 2015. He oversees the day-to-day operations of the organization, including lobbying, advocacy, training, and development services, regulatory support, and much more, along with supporting the board of directors in strategic planning. Before joining the NCRA, Barry worked at a number of radio stations. His broadcasting career actually began in southwestern Ontario at CFRU. Some of you, I'm sure, are familiar with that station at the University of Guelph. And I think he completed 1,000 episodes over his 20 years at the campus community radio station. So he's someone who's been very much immersed in this community for a very, very long time. Barry has a radio and TV broadcasting degree, a Master of Science in looking at how radio used social media, and holds a CAE designation in supporting associations. Additionally, and I'm not sure if he brought some beverages for us, he really should have, he runs Cider Canada, the National Cider Association. So the drinks are on Barry tonight. But Barry, please welcome and take it away.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me. An unfortunate situation that we've come to, but there are opportunities, and I think that's a little bit of what I'm hoping to walk through and speak to a little bit about in the session here. I think we're talking a little bit about right now some of the stuff that's happening within the industry and the sector, and then afterwards I'll speak a little bit about what the NCRA does, what the industry and the CRTC sort of does, and how governance ties to that as well. So I think that's probably what the plan is for the start of our session here. So.
Yeah. Did you want to say a couple words about just the state of things right now?
Yeah.
Like just the kind of the landscape, the general landscape, community radio landscape.
Interestingly enough, I think Ottawa, as an example of the campus community and the media landscape itself, is really a microcosm of what we're seeing. There are interested stations that are growing and starting. So there's a station in Chelsea that is looking to start up in a partnership with Unique FM, the French language station. CKCU just celebrated 50 years on the air and has been moving strong. But we've also seen Element FM, the Indigenous radio station, close. We've seen the broadcasting school at the Algonquin College close, and the radio station there is sort of up in the air. We've seen a station just outside CJRO, which is in Carlsbad Spring and Vars, adding broadcast transmissions and spreading out further, looking to add Rockland to their network. And we saw one of the French language stations just east of the city actually buy a commercial radio station and are operating a second radio station there as well. So there's a lot of change happening, not only in the National Capital Region, but this extends across the rest of the country. So large changes with student populations and international students, which has resulted in student fees and a lot of pressure on student associations or student unions. That's resulted in places like Memorial University having their student association decide to pull funding from their radio station to try to close their gap. So that station is figuring out, well, what do we do now that we have less or no student funding? We've seen stations like Fanshawe in London, Ontario, who have cut their broadcasting program and are now trying to figure out what to do with the equipment and the license. Seeing a very similar element at Mohawk College in Hamilton, and places like in Belleville at Loyalist College. They have closed their broadcasting program, but they're still finding a way to operate and having to adjust to the new realities of what we're seeing. So there's a lot of upheaval happening, but there's still positivity. We just had 2 new members join the National Association. There's growth. There's people that reach out again, I had another one today reach out and say, how do I start a radio station? So there's a need for what communities are looking for in the work that you do here, not just in Ottawa, but around the country.
I think people are here because they don't want to start a new station. They want to preserve this station. This is a station that means a lot to many, many people. CHUO is not the first station to be in this predicament. given your kind of understanding of the situation with, excuse me, with CHUO right now, what would you say are the kind of challenges that we face, and what are even just some of the opportunities that we have in this moment?
The challenges are pretty obvious. It's overall capacity. How much money is available to take the things that we're doing forward? What has happened to equipment and space and volunteers as the station has been forced to evacuate the student spaces there as well? But also, where will that land, and who is it that's going to be able to help make that happen? Because in reality, there's three parts to the process, right? Four, if you think a little bit bigger. The main element, of course, is members, and those are in a nonprofit who is able to help make decisions at the broad level of an organization. Then you've got your programmers and your volunteers. This is what drives the radio station forward and does the majority of the work. Staff are there to help facilitate all of those things for happening, and then your board of directors, who is just elected within the membership, are the ones that are to do the work of the business of the organization and plan for the future. And what I think we've seen as a challenge is when some of those are missing, and issues arise, specifically here at U of Ottawa, responses might not have been either quick enough or decisive enough to be able to stop from getting to the situation which we're at now, which is pretty dire and why we're all here.
Mm-hmm. One of the stations that I volunteered at was the old CKLN, which was a station that was then called Radio Ryerson, which also encountered some major difficulties and actually had to close. Mm-hmm. So can you just provide us with maybe some similar examples of radio stations that face the same kind of challenge that CHUO is facing right now, and what they did, mm-hmm. and kind of like frame it as a do's and don'ts?
Sure. So a couple of stations that have done that. So what was CKLN to CJRU and now CJTM, they were able to come back together with a plan of action and reopen a station. The benefit of it was they're back on the air, they're doing decently well. The disadvantage of it was they lost the FM frequency, and they don't have nearly the range they used to have. So they're now stuck on AM, and AM is not necessarily the greatest space to be in when it comes to coverage. So there's that. The don'ts there is don't get into a fight with yourself, because that's what happened. Was there's two governing bodies who both claimed to be elected, and they weren't working together, so they lost the process.
Because the CRTC doesn't like that. Like when the CRTC sees disruption, mayhem, and chaos, they would prefer just to close the whole thing.
Yeah. Well, they have their duty is to the airwaves, and if the airwaves are not being used the way that they have been set out in the rules, what choice does the CRTC have but to take it away?
Okay.
So that was one example. Two other examples in Ontario. Brock University and the university station at Waterloo. Both of them lost student funding. They've moved forward into other formats. So the Brock radio station is essentially volunteer run, one staff member, doesn't do a lot of broad work, but it is driven by the community, and has been able to stay alive for the last 20 years.
And they lost money because of the referendum.
Yeah, the students decided that the radio station wasn't meeting the needs of what happened. That's what we saw here at CHUO, in one way or another, right? There's a little bit more of the political background, I think, of what we saw, but in general, in that situation and in the University of Waterloo station, the students who hold the ability to make decisions on where their funding goes weren't feeling that the money that they were putting in was of value. So what we've seen a number of the stations do is they've pivoted from thinking of themselves as just a FM radio station to a much broader impact in the community. So a leading example of that would be at York University. They rebranded about 10, 12 years ago to Vibe 105.
They used to be CHRY.
CHRY,
Yeah.
so there's still their call
Yeah.
letters there, and historically known, incredible
Great
background in a lot of music genres. That organization made the bold leap to look at who they were servicing and say, are we really just creating radio, or are we doing something more for the community? And in that sense, the more for the community was videography and promotion for events and helping the communities run their promotions and their fundraising and so on. So they actually have, when they made that change, they're now about 3 times the size, and radio is one form of how they do their work. About 2/3 of where their money comes from, where their focus goes to, actually goes back to other community groups. And I wouldn't really call them a radio station, I call them a community media hub. And we're seeing that as an example of a transition as well.
Now, you have also, like just prior to coming on, we were chit-chatting, and you were mentioning that there could be a tranche of money available to the campus community radio sector. Could you elaborate on that?
Yeah.
In the coming months?
So there's been a lot of lobbying and advocacy that's been put forth by us and the Francophone associations in a group called the Community Radio Fund of Canada. So the Community Radio Fund of Canada offers about $35,000 for some small grant projects that happen on a regular basis. The commercial broadcasters help pay for that. What we've been saying is that's not a sustainable model when you're competing against other radio stations. And what we're really looking at is sort of a hybrid between what is happening with the CBC and other spaces, which is, can we get base funding? And that's a project called the Community Radio Initiative. About 3 years ago, this was brought to the CRTC when the update to the Broadcasting Act, which is the big rules of what goes on the air, was updated. And that's when the Government of Canada said, well, we make commercial broadcasters and Canadian organizations pay money in to help run the system. There's this thing called the internet. And the internet has a lot of people who make a lot of money off of Canadians like Spotify and YouTube and Netflix. Shouldn't they help pay for the system? So the decision was, well, why don't we make them do that? So the CRTC made a decision to put some funds towards it, and it was approximately $200 million. And within that announcement, there was an estimated $6 million that might go to our sector. That's been frozen in court battles, and the Government of Canada earlier in June said, because it's been held up in the courts for so long, because we've got this CUSMA issue with trade,
You're talking the free trade agreement.
trade agreements and all that's coming up, and that's part of it, and the give and take. So the Canadian government essentially said, we need to get this money into the hands of other people. So they've started the process of launching that. So
what does that mean in concrete terms? So if you hold a license, what does that mean for you?
In theory, if you hold a license, there'll be a set amount of money that comes from that pot of funding that goes directly to the radio stations.
Approximately how
every
much?
year.
You said a set of money. How much would that be?
About, the estimates right now are about $20,000 per radio station per year. So a little bit of a base fund there. Now, what we've been saying, not to the CRTC, but to Canadian Heritage, is we need more than this. This is not just applicable, and they've been listening. So we've done large advocacy campaigns. We've had 750 letters. We've met with the Minister of Heritage. We've been in front of the Finance Committee. We've had a number of other reports, and what we've been asking for is 30 million. So when you do the math on that, that's around 90 to 100,000. The hope is that the government recognizes the value in which stations like this provide to the community, and that base level will be made available, could be as soon as the next budget. So we're thinking maybe $100,000
Per station.
per year going forward.
So just to be clear then, so CHUO would be eligible to receive, we're obviously tight for time today, but if we were to hire you as a kind of a high price, if we were to hire you away from the Cider Association, right, and pay you a huge consultant's fee, and you were to give us, your best advice as to how this station should proceed in the next 6 months, 6 to 12 months, what's the blueprint? Like, what would you suggest we do from here on in?
Yeah. First thing is figure out who is in charge and where you're going. Because right now, decisions can't be made in a nonprofit organization if you don't have a functioning board of directors. Your bylaws are what constitutes the makeup of your board of directors, and your board of directors are the individuals as a group who come together and decide not only what you're planning to do in the future, but all the things that happen at the station right away. So you need to have a functioning board of directors that understands their role and their responsibility, what they can do, what they can't do, in order to be able to make decisions. Because I think one of the challenges that's happened here with CHUO is that the board either didn't make it, didn't have enough information, didn't know they had to make decisions, and when funding changed about 2 years ago, there wasn't action made, and you essentially operated with what was there, and then suddenly went, oh, we don't have anything in the bank, right? That's my sort of understanding of a bit of the process. So the board of directors really needs to be coming from the membership and willing to take on making those decisions going forward. Now, those decisions could be a whole bunch of things. Are we partnering with someone? Are we relocating? Are we asking the CRTC to suspend our license while we get reorganized and we go off the air? What do we have to do with our broadcasting transmitter and tower and equipment? How do we manage our volunteers? Where do we get money coming from grants or for fundraising? So there's a lot of these areas that have to be addressed. But there are opportunities, and the biggest start point is making sure that that board is legitimately in place and being able to have information to make those decisions.
So board number one. What
Board
else?
number one.
What else?
Second is bringing the rest of the community together, just like an event like this, right? Who can also add capacity to this? Do we have partners or businesses that are willing to reach out? Do we have entrepreneurs that can help out? Do we have academics that can provide support and solutions? Are there community members or community groups that can provide spaces to be involved with, or fundraising ideas or whatnot? Building and making those connections is going to really help strengthen the ability for the board and staff and volunteers to do their work. So that's another step. And I would say one of the last things that the organization needs to do, which is sort of a bigger thing, is radio what we do?
What does that mean?
Are you a radio station? Are you more than that? And if you're more than that, what is it that you're more than, and how does that feed into the work that the radio does? So is radio your goal, or is radio an output or a way to achieve your goal? And
So maybe the goal, for example, could be we are about communication, but that communication wouldn't just be about audio. It could be video as well.
Could
or
be video, right?
other
Are we
platforms.
here to, and most of the time, it is an opportunity for our people and our listeners to share their stories, to share information, to get information happening in reality, to make sure you have a healthy community, because information is incredibly important for those communities to be successful. So if that's what your goal is, are you only achieving that through radio, or are there other paths in which you can do so? So defining what your zone, your playground that you're working in is really important, and that is a combination of board staff, volunteers, and in reality, the membership, because ultimately the membership are the people that put their blood, sweat, tears, and their donations into the organization to allow it to happen.
You lead a national organization, and this is really going to be the last question. You lead the NCRA. It's a network of campus community radio stations across the country. How can CHUO benefit from this network, right? Because there's a lot of solidarity across the country. A lot of people are concerned about the state of CHUO, but maybe might not know what to do. So what can CHUO be doing to perhaps build those kinds of connections with other stations across the land?
The advantage of it is you're not in competition. I guess there is a bit with someone like a CKCU who's in the area and that. But in general, most of the organizations look at you as a friend and as somebody that can help out. So the network that we have has open communication, has opportunities to be able to share ideas and information. We're looking for this equipment. Does somebody have the ability to create this story? We have programming that our programmers are using. Can we get it out into the hands of the other stations, and maybe they can help with us? One of the biggest ideas, which I haven't seen happen, but potentially could, is can we leverage our friends to help save us going forward? Maybe a number of radio stations are willing to do a fundraising campaign on your behalf, right? So there are those types of ways and connections can be successful. I'll leave it with a small example. We had a tiny radio station in Corner Brook, Newfoundland. Their commercial radio station closed. There is no local media in Newfoundland that doesn't come from St. John's, except for community radio stations. They took this as an opportunity with a small grant. They went to the facilities that radio station was. They found the ability to move into the old studios, and they started building capacity by getting more people involved. They picked up some of the advertisers, they developed local connections, and 2 years ago they raised $1 million for the local hospital. Not themselves, for the hospital, because that was missed from that community. So there are examples of something like that where you can take what you're doing and apply in other ways, and that's allowed them to grow as well because their donorship has grown dramatically from what was completely volunteer-based to now 4 or 5 staff, 2 journalists, and continuing to build and grow because the community was looking for that and the people were making those opportunities happen. Mm-hmm. So there's possibilities. On the other side, the reality is, and I don't want to leave it as a downer, sometimes you know you've lost, right? And there's still responsibilities around those processes too. So I'm not saying that you should give up in these, but there are life situations, there's economic situations, there's organizational situations. They all have to be taken account for. You can't drag yourself through the mud if there's no possibility for going the same direction that you are. There could still be a way to change things. If it means the FM license is gone, does it mean the spirit of and what you do is gone? There's stations that operate online only, and they're drawing 100,000 listeners for the communities that they service, and they're doing well.
We're going to have to wrap up, but I'm wondering, and I'm just going to ask Sarah or Greg if we have time for questions. Is there time for questions for Barry? Is that possible? Or if people have any questions even in the audience right now. Are there any?
We kind of connected the presentation already.
Yeah.
We did most of it within it. So.
Are there any questions? Yes? Okay.
Has anybody thought of going back to where this all started and see if something, the mind could be changed? Because this started
Sorry, sir, this is really just a question for Barry, right? So maybe this might be something that we talk about afterwards, but do you have a question specifically for Barry?
No, my question was if they went back to the source of the problem to try to get it solved.
Okay.
And the source of the problem was done for telling the students that they didn't have
I see.
to pay.
Okay. So Bill 33, which is that element, is still in play. And yes, it hasn't come into force yet, and it has the opportunity to do so, which allows students to opt out. Now, my understanding is the situation that's happened here, although may have been triggered by something of that nature, is separate because you no longer have your student fee. So even if you were able to go back to the university and get the students to reinitiate the process and refund the organization, which is something that is probably worth looking at, as long as you can come to them with the reasons why they should fund you, then that will help with restoring funding. And you can ask for more money or less money or different money or something of that nature. The broader opt-out option that was sort of may have triggered why is still in theory happening. We don't know when it will kick in, and it will apply to every campus radio station in the province.
And so I'm sorry, sir, for interrupting. Thank you for your question. Appreciate it. Okay. So I think the question was, should we not be going to the source? So the source of the problem was the decision by the provincial government, led by Doug Ford, to affect the way in which financing occurs on campuses.
So specifically that question, yes, agreed, all of that. You just have, your campus is different than every other campus, and the decision that was made locally, not at the provincial level, and you still have to be aware of that. On the flip side, though, the question of could you go back to Doug Ford and ask them to fix this? Absolutely. Or could you go to another provincial government? Could you go to a municipal government? Those are all options as well. The Quebec government funds community radio to the tune of $60,000 a year. And they have a lot more radio stations than per capita than others do, specifically because of the French language. The argument that we've always been pointing to for this, what we call community radio initiative for funding, for core funding for everybody, has been Australia. So the Australian government puts in about $25 million a year. The Australian landscape, they have 2/3 the population. They have twice as many radio stations, and they're very healthy. Mm-hmm. That's what we've been arguing needs to help happen. At the federal level, we're still pushing for that. Obviously, we think stuff is hopefully coming, but there are ways that maybe the provincial government or other spaces could help out with it.
We'll take 2 more questions just because we want to benefit from Barry's expertise. Yes, Jackie. So the question was, CHUO is a bilingual station. Are there many other bilingual stations across the country?
The answer is, on a campus side of things, no, not really. There are a couple of French language stations in bilingual spaces, like in New Brunswick and in Quebec, but I believe you are unique enough that you are the only campus licensed bilingual station. There are other bilingual community radio stations, CJRO, again, just outside of the area is, and the station that's attempting to start in Chelsea has been asking if they can put in approximately 4 hours a week of English programming. One of the radio stations that's French-based in Edmonton has asked if they can put English programming in because they found that the French is great, but they can't sustain the entire organization on just French language in a place like Edmonton. So there are a few of them. I'll say there's a Spanish language radio station in Toronto as well. That's a community station. So there are some unique outliers there as well.
CKUT Radio McGill is predominantly an English station, but it does have French programming.
Yeah, but it is not bilingually licensed,
it's not bilingual.
Which has a different requirement of what you need to do. And if you wanted to, those are things that you could ask the CRTC to adjust or change. either permanently or in short term, in order to help you get back on your feet or to be able to address those changes. And there are changes coming in the way of licenses. They are essentially going to change to what they call a service agreement. So you don't have to reapply for a license every 7 years or less if you're found to be in non-compliance. You essentially, as long as you're doing what is agreed upon, you get to keep doing that, and there's less pressure about renewing licenses. That's happening shortly as well.
I think there's a question back here, sir.
What if we were able to get funding from outside sources? How would that help our initiative towards our goal of what we're trying to achieve?
So the question was about getting funding from outside sources and how that would help us to achieve our objective.
So radio stations can do funding in sort of any way that they want, and that's legal. And it can be utilized in any form. So I know that, for example, we just did a quick analysis of the campus radio station returns. About 3% of funding that comes in to run a radio station on a campus is from local advertising. If you could find a way to drive, $50,000 in local advertising, amazing. Other campuses are not able to do that and haven't done it. But there are all sorts of different ways. Our biggest radio stations are Indigenous radio stations that make $1 million off of bingo. So there's about 7 or 8 standard types of funding that go into running a radio station, and that's where the diversification of your money that comes in has a much less stress and worry than if, in the case that happened here, the students decided not to fund it. CKCU is a great example. Yes, it would be an incredibly big impact if the students decided not to fund it. Would the station both have enough time to respond and enough capacity from what they have in their community? I think you would see that. We see that happening in the States with PBS and other groups who are actually generating more funding because of the impact that they've had when someone like Trump has pulled the broad funding elements as well.
It's a good point, though, Paparici, that this is a sector that and I'm speaking like I used to be the station manager at CKT Radio McGill, and so I know the challenge that stations face. But the sector has been woefully underappreciated, right, by philanthropic individuals, like people with money, and other institutions. And there's some work to be done in terms of trying to show people the value of campus community radio stations. I'm not sure if that case has been, or we've been able to convince enough people to make considerable investments into the sector.
And the good news about that is there is a foundation called the Community Broadcasters Foundation of Canada, which is about to be operational. And if you were to find someone who wanted to do that, they're a foundation, and will be able to work with you to bring that money in. So if you can get some charitable donations, there's now a way to be able to manage it so that it can be written off. We're also talking about other types of special designations so that every radio station can write charitable receipts for donations that come in. These are all broad level, exciting opportunities, but you also still have to find a way to get the money. Getting charitable status doesn't mean suddenly people are going to walk up to you and go, here's X amount of dollars, can you give me a receipt?
Yeah. We really should wrap up, but I did want to include you, sir. I think you had a question.
Yes, one of the examples that you cited was the radio station that was in a similar situation as CHUO, and I guess they were able to reorganize, and now they're doing decently well. So I don't know what the decently well means. I just wanted to better understand how they were able to pivot and what does that mean.
So the question was about another radio station that was in a similar predicament that was able to reorganize, and the questioner said that you described them as doing decently well, doing so right now. What exactly does that mean? How well are they doing at this standpoint?
They're operating, which is good. Do they have a lot of money? Absolutely not. Do they still provide a service to the community? Yes, they do. Brock University was the one example. The other one was the University of Waterloo. The University of Waterloo radio station moved from a campus to a community-based station. They also flipped their model to a cooperative. So that's a different style as opposed to the specific board of directors. They actually use the cooperative model, which means, in short, and this happens in a lot of multicultural radio which is a different license, but it's still a model. You come and you do your radio show, you essentially pay for your time on the air. So there's been a couple of these adjustments and changes. Now, is that great for the community? Probably not. It means that you have money, you get the opportunity. There's a bit of a privilege element there for sure, but it also means that the station is still running. So I wouldn't say that I would say they're doing okay, but they're not successful because they're still always struggling to find the ways to keep the doors open.
I know there's a time crunch, but I want to check in to see if we can actually take more questions at this stage. Are we okay to take more questions? We are? Okay. Are there any, so Pat, you had a question, and are there any online questions? Oh, there are? Let's ask if they are. If we have access to those, maybe we can ask them. Do we have those questions? Oh, Chris, are there any questions online? No questions, okay. But I'm told we have time for a few more questions, so Pat, and then I think Papa Richie as well. Richard. So Pat?
So my question is really about funding, and what I'm wondering, Barry, is what your understanding of the Ottawa, the Community Foundation's relationship with community radio. So that's one, in terms of a fundraising partner. And the second one is what I call sustaining donorship. So similar to the model of This American Life, which now has life partners, and actually has people contributing on either a weekly or a monthly basis. That could be members, but also just generally other members of the community.
So a two-part question. One question was about the relationship between community foundations and the campus community radio sector, and the other one was about sustainable donations, or donor, is that what it's called?
Sustainable donors.
Sustainable donors, and she cited the example of the one of the kind of most successful programs in North America, This American Life, now relying on members that contribute on a weekly basis and on a monthly basis. Is that the question? Okay.
I'll tackle the second part first. The sustainable donor process is a general member donor fundraising. It just takes it from a one-time pledge ask, breaks it down into monthly or regular donations. It is a lot more sustainable. You know when the cash flow comes in and out, and that was always a challenge with student fees. Can you build to it? That is always the challenge. And can you maintain it? A good example is a for-profit group that has done this is called Canada Land. They've found ways to add in new programming and all of this, and their host every once in a while rocks the boat a lot, and they lose a whole bunch of people.
You're talking about Jesse Brown.
Jesse Brown. But also sometimes it comes back with the new programs that they put into place. So there's those elements of that process. It is a tried and tested process. It is what we're seeing a lot of in community newspapers. The second question tied to community foundations. Up until about a year ago, there was a rule that said a foundation could not work with a third party unless they were also a charity. Those federal,
what does that mean?
In order to complete the tasks of what is a foundation or a charitable organization, there's like 6 different pools of money that can go towards. So like community development and health and education and so on. The CRTC and the Canadian Revenue Agency, the CRA, back in the 80s said broadcasting is not a charitable designation. So radio stations cannot get a charitable number, charitable status. It's just not possible in general. The changes that were made at the federal level about a year ago allowed some of these foundations to start working and completing their tasks through third-party groups, which are often community stations or can be. So if the foundation has something that the radio station does, then the radio station can be funded to do that as long as it matches the amount of money that goes in. So you couldn't have a charitable foundation give you 100% of your money because you're not 100% charitable, but you do arts, you do education, you do these things, so there's that possibility. So that has opened up. The Community Broadcasters Foundation is designed specifically to do that, to provide an opportunity for money to come in to do the parts of what is charitable through a radio station. But a community foundation, which is a broader, more healthy ecosystem group, can now also do some of that. And we've seen a few radio stations benefit before they even had that partnership. We have a seniors radio station in Winnipeg, and the foundation couldn't give them money to do that work, but they had a space for a studio, so they just give them the studio space for free. So there are these types of partnerships that can be done. It is more flexible nowadays, which is very helpful. Is there a lot of those partnerships that have happened right now? No, because the Community Broadcasters Foundation isn't fully in operation because it still doesn't have enough money to hire staff. And that's one of the challenges we're always dealing with as well. But also, where do we find those groups that are involved with it?
Final question. Richard, okay. You haven't asked a question, actually. Sir John, you go ahead.
Thank you very much for giving me the floor. My question have two aspects, the niche and the editorial aspect. Because in the National Capital Region, we have an increase of the Francophone community. Do we have to think about shifting the niche of what we produce, and also the editorial content? The idea of getting connected with school board, will that be something? I don't know. I'm just thinking out loud. I want some help on clarification from your side.
Okay, so the question was about recognizing that the demographics in this community have been changing and that there's an increased number of Francophones now living in the National Capital Region, and whether that means that CHUO needs to shift its mandate, right, in order to serve those needs. And then the other question was about fostering new connections with school boards across the region, and whether there might be opportunities there for growth for a station like CHUO.
I'll start with the educational side of things. It is a possibility, absolutely. We have 2 members who are high school radio stations, right? So there used to be over 100 in Ontario. Almost every high school used to have a little broadcasting program and club. Changes into the CHC rules changed how everything happened, etc. But those types of relationships are possible, right? If you look at the organizations that are education-based in Ottawa and the National Capital Region, there are other groups that have not been tapped on that you could look at. So there are La Cité, there's the university station, St. Paul, right? So if their student associations or their faculty and their organizations think there's a value in holding a radio station, you hold the license. It doesn't matter in most spaces where that goes. Yes, you have to have a transmitter of what it does, but if you were to move, there's possibilities there. The second question that was tied to...
just recognizing the shift in demographics.
Yeah. So CHRY or Vibe 105 is a fantastic example of that.
CHRY was the former York University.
Yes,
Yeah.
Technically still is, right?
Yeah.
They just have the call letters remain the same, they just don't use them.
Yeah.
Their focus is on Black Canadians in the area. That's what they do. We have a radio station that just started in Edmonton that is for and by Black Canadians. We have a seniors only station in Winnipeg, right? The Spanish language station in Toronto. So bringing where your focus is closer allows you opportunities. Now, what does that mean? The board of directors, the membership, they all have to want to be able to do that. Is that sustainable or not? That's great. I'll leave with the example of Afrobeat Love Bay Radio. A member of ours in Toronto, they were the only radio group in the entire country to get all three heads of the political parties to sit down in advance of the election and be on their show, because they were driving 100,000 listeners online in Toronto and around the world, because what they serviced was a community that wasn't being serviced by anybody else. So people go to that spot for that information. So narrow casting, I guess, is what you look at it. So maybe the challenge is the station has been trying to do too much for too many. One way to be able to tighten things up might allow you to be more successful in other ways.
Greg, have we run out of time for this session, or do we have more time, or not? Is it okay? Is it time to? Are there any other questions? Okay, is that enough? Should we move on? Okay, Barry Rook, thank you so much. Really appreciate it. Thank you. Very informative session. And sorry about that. And I'm going to turn the microphone over to Sarah and Greg. And Patricia.
How is everybody doing? It looks as though we have about 25 people in the room. I've been doing a running count, and we have about 30, maybe more, online. So, given that we organized this at the very last minute, I do want to congratulate everybody for coming out and making the time. So we're going to continue on with the discussion. So again, I do want to thank Barry for an illuminating discussion. I think I certainly learned a lot about what the opportunities may be for CHUO moving forward. We're going to move now into a presentation that Greg McDougall and Sarah Onyango have prepared. And it gives you a little overview about how we've come to the point where we are. So you'll hear a little bit of the chronology of how we got here.
Thank you. I guess I'll just, to go on with the people who are here and the people who are online, if you have a phone with you, or if you're online and you want to not tweet something out, but whatever social media you use, you can let people know right now that we're going to be talking about what's happening with CHUO. So if you put it out there, if you send an email right now, maybe a couple more people will tune in and find out. They can also watch this live stream afterwards.
OK. Pour les francophones. Si vous avez un téléphone portable, vous pouvez envoyer un gazouillis pour parler de ce qui se passe ici, ou de dire aux gens de trouver le lien et de suivre justement cette séance, et d'inviter d'autres personnes à suivre ce qui se passe ici en direct.
And the link is linktree/891CHUO.
Nous allons mettre le lien sur... c'est dans la diaporama. Donc, c'est pas la peine que je répète. So you can introduce yourself first.
Right,
Everybody
yeah.
wants to know, who the hell is this Greg guy?
Yeah, so my name's Greg McDougall. I over like I don't know since the late 2000s. I was listening to CHO and CKCU for a long time before that, but very occasionally I was either a guest on a show, or I was contributing a recording, or I was getting someone else to go on a show. And I do a lot of like community grassroots activism as well. One story I was thinking about when I was thinking about speaking is that, so it was like 2013, 2014, I put on a course renting a room in a community center. It was on interdependent media. And the reason I want to say that is because 3 people, so one show host, one kind of like behind the scenes person, and one person who is like with the CHO community, all came and took that course. And I just thought that was like it was a good power of community and power of the connections that CHUO does. And very relevant now is that I helped get the referendum campaign going that we tried to get back the funding in February for like the early March vote of the students, and we weren't successful. But we're going to talk about all this.
Oui, alors moi c'est Sarah Onyango, j'ai co-animé 3 émissions, co-animé et co-réalisé, Ici l'Afrique, Africa Revisited et Black on Black. Je suis bénévole à CHUO depuis 2 décennies, plus que 2 décennies. Et moi, j'ai aussi participé justement à la campagne visant à convaincre les étudiants à reprendre la cotisation pour la station de radio. Okay.
No, our plan was that people could ask questions by writing stuff down on pieces of paper, and I think there's a basket somewhere that maybe people could
With
circulate.
pencils and flashcards.
And also online at the linktree/891CHO, there's a Google form where you can put down questions, you can put down ideas, you can sign your email up to get updates about what's going to keep going.
Alors, au lien Linktree, les gens qui sont en ligne, vous pouvez soumettre vos questions ou vos commentaires, et puis les personnes dans la salle écriront leurs questions ou leurs commentaires sur une fiche. Purpose.
Oh, so we're still there. Yeah, the main reason we wanted to do this, I think a lot of people don't know what's been going on with the station, really. And I mean, we've been able to learn a lot about what's going on and trying to do things about it. But I think we need to really let more people know a lot of the details about what's going on and what we can do.
Alors, l'objectif de l'événement, comme vous le voyez sur l'écran, c'est vraiment partager de l'information, bien informer les bénévoles de la station, les membres de la communauté, afin qu'ils comprennent parfaitement ce qui s'est passé et ce qui arrive. Et c'est aussi pour donner une vue d'ensemble des différentes façons de s'impliquer, de soutenir les efforts de reconstruction. C'est aussi l'occasion de recueillir vos commentaires et à la fin présenter les prochaines étapes.
I think we've kind of gone over this part.
Notez bien le lien Linktree pour les gens en ligne. Alors, vous avez vu les animateurs, les présentateurs.
And the cool thing was when we started doing the referendum campaign, I could just like phone up Barry and he was giving all this advice and stuff. So it's like a really good resource that there's a NCRA there.
Disclaimer.
Oh yes, this disclaimer. So we, like I was saying, we've been learning a lot of stuff by like doing the referendum campaign and trying to advocate. we started a petition and everything and had to learn the bylaws. So just to say that, like, don't take everything we say as like the absolute truth, because maybe we're wrong. We think we're right. We think we know what we're talking about, but always like look into it a bit yourself. On the link tree, we actually have the bylaws posted there, so you can look at them. We have CRT licensing decisions for CHUO up there, and a lot of the media that happened from the referendum campaign, from the decision to close the station. And just
Alors,
the last thing
oui.
is that we may not be able to cover everything we wanted to tonight, so we'll see how that goes.
C'est ça. Alors, juste l'avertissement pour dire que l'information que nous présentons, c'est pas incontestable. C'est parce qu'on a recueilli cette information lors de réunions, d'entretiens, auprès de diverses personnes qui ont été impliquées au sein de la station, qui ont été bénévoles, qui ont été membres du personnel, du conseil d'administration, etc. Des gens impliqués dans le milieu de la radio universitaire comme Barry, que vous avez entendu au début de la séance. Et ces renseignements proviennent aussi d'analyses et de recherches de sources qui se trouvent en ligne, ainsi que des textes réglementaires, déclarations et lois régissant ce type d'activité. Et il se peut aussi que ce soir, nous ne puissions pas tout couvrir.
So here we go. So what happened, I think some of you know at least this, is that the board itself, so 5 people, the board of directors of CHUO, decided they would close the station. There wasn't any consultation with the volunteers first at the station. It was just a decision by the board. It doesn't mean it was a unanimous decision, but it was an official board decision. And it was in the middle of a funding drive that had been one goal, and then it had changed to another goal, and then all of a sudden it was over. But really, the main thing that drove that was losing the referendum. First, there was a vote in the fall of 2023, and it got challenged, so they said, okay, we'll redo it. And then there was a vote in the winter of 2024, and it was the same result both times, that the students voted to no longer pay a fee to support CHUO. And it was the same thing, they did the same thing with the activist group, OPIRG, O-P-I-R-G, that they removed the funding for that group as well.
OK, donc tout a vraiment basculé début de décembre 2025 sur décision du conseil d'administration et sans consulter les bénévoles et en pleine campagne de financement. Ils ont décidé que la station allait fermer à cause d'un manque d'argent parce que à l'issue d'un référendum étudiant en 2024 et suite à un manque d'adaptation justement depuis lors, la station a perdu une grande partie de son financement. L'Université d'Ottawa a alors décidé de commencer à facturer un loyer, you're going to talk about the rental, pour le bureau et les studios. Et la diffusion en direct a cessé, le studio a été démonté, le bureau a été libéré et le personnel a été licencié. Ensuite, il était prévu de poursuivre la diffusion de contenu préenregistré jusqu'à la mi-mars ou la fin mars.
And I'll just note that it was about 80% of the revenue. So it was about $400,000 was coming from the students out of about $500,000 total budget.
Alors, ce que Greg vient de dire, c'est que 80% du budget de la station provenait justement de cette cotisation étudiante. Donc, 400 000 des 500 000 de la station. Donc, quand on a perdu le référendum à 2 reprises, c'est 80% du budget qui disparaissait.
And I think the one other thing I'd say, I don't know if the Titanic is the right metaphor, but it was like from the fall of 2023 or the winter of 2024, it's like this problem is very visible and we know what's going to happen. but it was kind of just keep on going the same way, and then boom. That's how I see it. And even like I heard, I wasn't there, but the August of 2025, there was the annual general meeting, and it was a big, I don't know if you want to call it elephant in the room, or it was just a big issue. But there wasn't really any plan that came out of that, and 4 months later, it was December.
Oui, donc là, en août 2025, il y a eu une assemblée générale avec les bénévoles et des membres du conseil d'administration. Nous avons été prévenus qu'il y avait vraiment un problème, un grave problème financier, sauf qu'il n'y avait pas de plan. Il n'y avait pas de plan pour s'attaquer à ce problème-là. Et puis, tout d'un coup, à la fin de l'année, on s'est fait dire, bon, il faut trouver X $, sinon c'est fini.
And so where I got involved was it was the university student union president saying, well, maybe there could be another referendum and win the money back. So after the December closure, I was interested to see about that, and it turned out that the two of the staff and one of the board at CHUO had written up a referendum question, and the campaign was in February and the vote was early March, but no one was doing anything about it. So I was like, well, let's do something about it. It took almost 2 weeks from when I wrote the letter to when it got sent to the station volunteers to ask if they wanted to get involved. We did a campaign, but we had a very not very active group, and we weren't able to access the website of the station, so it was frustrating.
OK, stop right there. Donc, c'était quand que tu as appris auprès du président de la Fédération des étudiants? When was it you talked to the Student Federation?
He was in the media saying,
Ah,
maybe there
OK.
could
Donc, il a entendu justement dans les médias le président ou la présidente de la Fédération étudiante qui disait qu'il y avait une autre possibilité de recouvrer cette cotisation étudiante, parce qu'il y aurait un autre référendum. Et il y avait l'organisme GRIPO. Le GRIPO était aussi dans la même situation. Donc, Greg s'est porté volontaire pour coordonner la campagne. Et on a travaillé avec GRIPO, non?
Oui.
Oui, en travaillant avec GRIPO pour essayer, tant bien que mal, de réussir cette campagne. Sauf que ça n'a pas marché. On n'avait pas assez de bénévoles, il n'y avait pas beaucoup de temps, et c'était 2 semaines. C'est ça? 2 semaines.
Just a minute. And I'll just say for the referendum, the students did vote against us, but it was 11.25% of the students voted at all. And it was maybe, I would say, maybe it was like 30% voted for CHUO, maybe like 40% voted against CHUO, and maybe like 40% or 30%, whatever. Anyways, a lot of students, even the ones who were voting, didn't vote on this question. So there's like a huge amount of, you can call it apathy or just like passivity or whatever.
Donc, la campagne n'a pas connu beaucoup de succès, en partie parce qu'il n'y avait pas une grande participation à l'élection en général. Il y a quoi, juste 11% de la population étudiante qui a participé à cette élection, et la plupart n'ont même pas voté sur la question de la cotisation destinée à CHUO.
And I think we do need to move ahead because we have a lot of things we want to get to that are really important in terms of moving forward. Right after the decision to close in December, one of the board members resigned, and then. Oh yeah, and what we did after the referendum, we were like, well, we need to raise money because we knew there was expenses coming up, but we were also like, well, with the way they ended that fundraising and a lot of people were upset. We figured, well, we can't just like try and fundraise and have the same people in charge because a lot of people don't like what was happening. So we decided to do a petition. And I think we had 29 people sign the petition when we gave it in, and then a couple more afterwards, which is over 10% of what the membership is, and we'll get to what membership is about the station. But the petition was to say, we want to have a general meeting where we can vote to possibly remove some or all of the board and replace them with new people who will see what they can do to keep the station going. Because I think, like I said, like there's people in the community, people who donated, whatever, who are upset, but there's also like, this board just decided to close the station. So if you want the station to keep going, it makes sense you have a different group of people who are going to make the decisions. So anyway, so we made this petition.
Alors après l'échec de nos efforts au référendum, on s'est dit que ce serait peut-être le temps de remplacer le conseil d'administration et trouver des gens qui voulaient vraiment aider à restaurer la station. Donc, nous avons fait circuler une pétition auprès de membres de CHUO ou de gens qui sont des sympathisants, mais surtout des membres, surtout, oui. Il y avait une base de données, puis on est allé puiser là-dedans, trouver des membres. Il y a quoi, 25? 26? 26 or 25? The number of people who signed the petition.
Oh, yeah, 29, but I think that's
29.
when we gave it in.
Oui.
We got a couple more after.
C'est ça. Oui.
But the thing is that the petition, the bylaws say, well, if you do the 10% thing, then the chair of the board has to call the general meeting, and the petition has to say what it's for, like expressly say what the reason for the general meeting is, and we did that.
Okay.
But there has been still, it's like, that was March 19th when we gave it in.
OK. Donc, le 19 mars, la pétition a été remise au président du conseil d'administration, et il y avait un peu plus de 10% des membres qui avaient signé, de personnes qui avaient signé cette pétition. Et à ce moment-là, quand il y a 10% ou plus de personnes ayant signé la pétition, le président ou la présidente du conseil d'administration doit tenir une assemblée générale. Oui, selon les statuts de la station de radio. Ça n'a pas été fait jusqu'à présent.
And since then, another of the board members has resigned. So there are now only 3 people on the board, and there's another part of the bylaws which says that you have to have 4 members on the board or you do not have quorum. So like, if there's a board meeting and only 3 people show up, you can't make decisions. But now it's not just that it's 3 people at one meeting, it's there are only 3 people on the board, period. So they can't make decisions. So the bylaws say, well, you have to call a meeting and have the members vote and fill the vacancies.
C'est ça. Donc, là, il y a le problème du nombre de membres siégeants au sein du conseil d'administration. Il y a une autre personne qui a démissionné. Donc, là, il reste 3 membres du conseil d'administration. Il faut 4 pour atteindre un quorum. Le quorum n'est pas atteint. Donc, il n'y a pas de décision qui peut se prendre. Et à ce moment-là, il faut convoquer une réunion afin de pourvoir ces postes-là, pour qu'il y ait un quorum, pour que le conseil d'administration puisse minimalement fonctionner.
And I don't know where we're at with this, but when we did that petition, we knew that there were big expenses coming up. So there was a $28,000 expense. The annual rental of putting the broadcast on the antenna at Camp Fortune. It's owned by CBC, and they allow various people or stations to put their broadcast equipment up on the big antenna. And that was actually due April 1st. But what happened is that on June 21st, the board chair called a special meeting to have members there who could say, like, yes, it's okay to spend that money, because with only 3 board members, they couldn't just go and pay that check on their own.
Oui, donc la pétition, c'était l'urgence avec la pétition, c'est aussi parce que nous savions qu'il y avait des dépenses. des dépenses fixes, comme l'antenne, qui est l'espace où se trouve l'antenne à Camp Fortune. Donc, le président du conseil d'administration, il a organisé une séance d'information à l'intention des membres un mois après avoir reçu la pétition. Et puis, il a convoqué une réunion pour le 21 juin afin d'obtenir l'autorisation de verser une redevance de 28 000 $ pour l'antenne et pour discuter de différentes idées.
So, we're going to go very quickly over a couple things, then we're going to take a short break, and then we're going to come back and we're going to get into the plans for the future, or for now, actually. But when they closed the station, they said it will keep broadcasting till March 31st, but it won't be live because there's no studio. So it's been that way till now even, where it's mostly repeats. Like I was listening to one of the Black on Black shows from like the end of the first lockdown of COVID. I think it was this past weekend. So there's a lot of like old shows, but there's maybe like 4 or 5 that are like the hosts are making the recordings on their own and sending it in. And Mickey, who is here, I think, the station manager is now laid off. Every day she's programming the next day's broadcast with some of the new content, but it's mostly old content.
OK. Alors, pour les gens qui se demandent si CHUO diffuse encore, oui, sauf que ce sont des reprises, des émissions en rediffusion. Greg dit qu'il a écouté une émission qui date de, de la pandémie et de la COVID. Donc, c'est des reprises d'émissions ou des émissions préenregistrées qui sont enregistrées par les animateurs ou animatrices eux-mêmes et envoyées sous forme de fichiers à l'ancienne directrice de station qui, maintenant, bénévolement, met tout ça en ondes.
And I'm just going to skip to the last part, which is the finances. So, and we have, so up on the Linktree /891CHUO, we posted the one from the last annual general meeting, which had the budget for this past year. The fiscal year ends like, I think it's April 30th or whatever. But we have the actual, like the records for up till like May of this year.
OK, un instant. Alors, pour les gens qui veulent savoir ce qu'il en est avec la situation financière, nous avons affiché sous le lien Linktree tous les états financiers jusqu'à mai, mi-mai cette année.
Linktree right now, it's only the last year, like from a year ago.
Jusqu'à 2025.
It was the one published.
L'exercice financier 2024-2025. C'est ça?
Yeah, and projection of this past year.
Ah, et puis les finances pour, prévues, tout ce qui était prévu pour l'année qui vient, l'exercice qui vient de s'écouler. Donc vous pouvez trouver tout ça sur Linktree.
But the important thing is that as of the start of May or the early May, there was $47,000 in the bank of CHUO, and more liabilities and things, but like overall, like owing about $10,000 unpaid, and then paying the $28,000, and I think that leaves like 8,000 or so, if I'm correct, 9,000, whatever. So that's the situation, and we want to have a new board come in, but so there's very little money to start with, and there are other expenses. We aren't sure exactly these expenses if they're correct, but we think. We thought the one was about 28,000, and it was, so I think these other ones we might be pretty close on. We haven't been able to confirm. So like there's another maybe $20,000 coming up at the end of July, and maybe another 20,000, or maybe a bit less for the insurance. There's 3 types of insurance. So that's the financial situation where it is. But like there's no money for staff, there's no money for a studio. So the board, that's one of the major things that it's got to figure out. And we'll be getting to that after the break.
OK, donc début mai 2026, le solde était de 47 000 $. Il y avait des dettes à payer. $28 000 ont été payés pour renouveler le contrat d'antenne à Camp Fortune. Et d'après ce que nous comprenons, il y a d'autres coûts fixes qui arrivent à échéance. Hein. Et donc, il y a $20 000 par an pour la salle de transmission. Il y a des assurances. Il y a 3 types d'assurances. Matériel, erreur et omission, contenu diffusé. Et bon, il y a peut-être une question de licence, quelque chose. On ne sait pas trop. En tout cas, il reste quoi, $8 000 dans le compte après avoir payé toutes les sommes dues. Donc, c'est le défi qu'aurait un nouveau conseil d'administration. Commencer avec un déficit ou peu d'argent.
So, like I said, we'll take a break right now. We were going to say a 10-minute break, and it was going to be 15, but we're going to say a 5-minute break, so it'll be 10. And if you write down some questions you have, when we come back, we'll be able to have them all, and we'll be able to quickly answer them. We don't want to go too much longer, but we don't want you to leave right now either. So, that's what we're at.
Bon, alors nous allons prendre une pause avant de procéder à la deuxième partie de cette rencontre. Là encore, on vous invite à noter vos questions sur les fiches qui seront distribuées. Il y a des crayons. And the people online, please record your questions online as well. Somebody is monitoring that, and we will read them out and see if we can answer or get someone to answer for you. 8:37, à 8h37, nous allons reprendre la séance. Merci.
2-minute warning.
then gets the questions out. You did ask them the question. Yeah, and we didn't say we were going to answer them right away. We're going to answer them when we've done this. This needs to.
What are if you guys say three key things right now, what would you say?
Okay, this is not working again. Now I turned it off. Okay.
Maybe you're aiming for a ring. That works, right? I mean, that works. I was aiming for
We don't need that. We don't need that. We don't need that. We don't need any of that. Bylaws. Do you want to go through bylaws?
yeah, well,
No?
this is good though. This,
Okay, so we'll start. Yeah? Hello, hello. Can we get everybody to come back? You can bring your questions to the front. Hello? Not working. No.
Testing, testing.
Okay, mine is off, so it's not the right one. Can we get everyone to come back into the room, please? So that we can quickly do the second half and then get to your questions. We have a table, a pile of questions over here. Est-ce qu'on peut demander à tout le monde de revenir dans la salle, s'il vous plaît, afin que nous puissions passer à la deuxième partie de cette réunion? Hello, hello. Please come back. We're getting started again. Hello, yes. Okay. You can come and sit and start.
So I will mention one of the questions that happened a couple of times that I also had. Can you move a campus community station just into the community? And I had asked Barry about that before. And I think he was saying, so there was a couple of examples he said that had done that. But to be a campus station, you don't have to do everything on campus, but you have to be supported by students still.
OK. Donc, une question que quelqu'un a posée. Est-ce qu'on peut maintenir le statut de radio universitaire, mais sans être sur le campus? Et, comment il s'appelle? Barry. Barry nous a dit que, il faut maintenir un lien avec l'université, même si on déménage du campus. Donc, ce lien-là est très important pour maintenir le statut de radio universitaire.
And we realize we can't really get to the questions right now. We might at the end, but we really want to cover this. This is the bylaws. I think we got into it a bit. There's a petition. We do 10%, and they're supposed to do this. But so this is the board now, where we're at. So there, I think I had mentioned they lost quorum. So there are supposed to be, there are 6 positions for the board that are voting. So 2 of them are station volunteers and 4 of them are community reps. And it actually says in the bylaws, nominated by the board and then elected at the annual general meeting or another meeting. And then there's 5 positions that aren't voting. So they're kind of like advisory or whatever, and 2 with the student union, 1 with the University of Ottawa admin, and 2 of the staff. And et cetera, I mean, what we are really trying to do here is say that if we want to have a new board, we actually have to have people who are interested in becoming on the board, becoming a new board member. So we want to tell people what the situation is, how it works.
OK, on va continuer. Donc là, les gens qui sont dans la salle, vous voyez qu'il y a 6 postes avec droit de vote au sein du conseil d'administration, 2 représentants bénévoles, anglophones et francophones, et 4 représentants de la communauté. Il y a 5 postes d'office, donc c'est des gens qui ne votent pas, 2 représentants de l'association étudiante, 1 représentant de l'administration de l'Université d'Ottawa, 2 membres du personnel de CHUO, et ce sont des mandats de 2 ans. Mais justement, nous essayons de vraiment pourvoir tous les postes et avoir un conseil d'administration qui fonctionne correctement.
Yeah, and regularly it would be the annual general meeting comes up every year, and the board members have a 2-year term, so some of them, their term ends 1 year and some of them the next year, so there's always like a turnover. But now it's obviously a different special situation. And so the way to do it is a general meeting, not an annual general meeting, but a general meeting. So the annual general meeting, you hear about it a month and a half in advance. The general meeting, it only requires 10 days notice.
Alors, donc là, comme on est dans une situation exceptionnelle, normalement, il y aurait eu une assemblée générale annuelle. C'est combien de préavis? 40?
45.
45 jours de préavis pour une assemblée générale annuelle. Mais comme c'est une situation exceptionnelle, on peut convoquer une assemblée générale avec préavis de 10 jours. 10 days.
And the thing is that we learned, we didn't learn this at the time when we did the petition, but afterwards we learned, so there's the station bylaws, and there's the Ontario Not-for-Profit Corporations Act, which kind of supersedes the bylaws. The bylaws are supposed to get to work together, but it's not in the station bylaws. It's in the Ontario laws that if you do this, 10% of the membership do a petition, and the board doesn't do the petition, it doesn't have the general meeting. After 21 days, any member can say, okay, well, they're not doing it, so I can do it, and just hold the meeting on your own.
But I being a member.
Yeah.
OK. Donc, il y a, la station est régie par deux régimes. Il y a les statuts de la station et il y a la loi sur les organismes à but non lucratif de l'Ontario. Right? Et selon la loi de l'Ontario, après 21 jours, si le conseil d'administration n'a pas réagi à la pétition que nous avons déjà envoyée, donc un membre ou une membre de CHUO peut convoquer cette assemblée générale.
And I might have got that wrong. It might be 23 days, because I was just looking.
OK, 21 ou 23.
Because 21 days, you have to have been a member for 21 days to be able to vote at the meeting.
Ah, OK. Donc, OK, start again.
So you have to be a member to vote for the new board people, but you also have to be a member to run for the board.
But what's the 21 days?
Oh, sorry. So it's a bit, okay. 23 days. If we do this petition and the board doesn't actually follow what the petition says and it's 10% of the membership, after, I think it's 23 days, that any member can say, okay, I'm going to do this thing that was in the petition.
OK, donc la pétition, 23 jours après réception de la pétition, si le conseil d'administration n'a pas convoqué d'assemblée générale, une personne ayant été membre pendant 21 jours, who's been a member for 21 days, oui, peut convoquer la réunion et voter à la réunion pour remplacer le conseil d'administration.
Yeah. Sorry for derailing it there, but yeah.
Yeah, let's not get into the weeds too much. All the information is up on the link tree, right? Toute cette information-là
All of this,
est au lien
all of that.
Linktree.
Where it was going, though, is that in the bylaws, when the board loses a quorum, it says the board should call the meeting so the members can vote to fill the vacancies. But in the actual station bylaws, it says if the board doesn't do that, any member can call that general meeting or just call that meeting where the members can vote to choose new board members to fill all the vacancies. So that's where we're at now, is we had the petition. There was no general meeting called. The board lost a quorum. The board didn't call a meeting to fill the vacancies. So it's now at a state where any member of the organization can say, okay, we're going to call a general meeting and we're going to do the vote and get new board members.
Oui, donc c'est vraiment une situation d'inertie. Le conseil d'administration ne réagit pas aux appels à convoquer une assemblée générale pour pouvoir remplacer le conseil d'administration ou au moins pourvoir les postes qui sont vacants afin que le conseil d'administration puisse fonctionner correctement. Donc, à ce point-ci, n'importe quel membre, en bonne et due forme, peut convoquer une assemblée générale, right?
But the problem is that the bylaws also say, so who is a member? And their definition is someone who has paid the annual fee. And
Okay,
how
donc-
many, oh, go ahead.
Oui, le problème, c'est comment définir un membre de CHUO. Et dans les statuts de CHUO, on dit que c'est quelqu'un ayant payé sa cotisation annuelle de $15 ou quelque chose comme ça.
And I was going to ask, so how many people in this room paid their annual fee this year? I don't think it's anyone, because I don't think, for years, there's been no collection of the membership fees, so there's been no official members. So if there's no membership, how do you do this? So, but we addressed that when we did the petition. We said, okay, so there was a policy where show hosts who've been there 15 years didn't have to pay the membership fee. So,
Actually, on the AGM, we will actually give the idea of charging the show host to pay want to initiate. It's just the people in the office before we start talking about it.
Okay, so sorry, sorry, my hearing's actually not that good, so I'm not. I heard some of what you said, but not all of it.
No, Mickey's saying that at one point, staff members were suggesting that show hosts pay, an annual due of what? Is it 15 or 50? 50? 50 of $50 per year to maintain a membership status at the radio station. But it was vetoed and there was a lot of backlash. So they abandoned the idea.
I remember being at the annual general meeting where show hosts paid $20 for a year. I remember that. It was called something called downtown there, the place that had the meeting. What was the other girl's name that was there before? Erin was there then. And I went to pay, because I will tell you why I remembered it. I went to pay, and Erin said, you don't have to pay because of the length of time you were there. So yes, the people did pay and were members back in the day.
Okay, so somebody in the back of the room is talking about, at another point, show hosts and producers were asked to pay a membership fee of $20, and this particular person did pay. Was willing to pay $20,
Yeah, but they told me I didn't have
and
to
then
pay because of the length of
and then that station manager said because of their seniority, having been there for a long time, they didn't have to pay. Donc ici, on discute des frais d'adhésion de membres, etc. Mais là, on s'embourbe un peu. Là. Can we move? Yeah.
Yeah, and the main point was that, so we said even if people aren't paying the membership fee, well, at least the show hosts who've been here a long time, they are members for sure. But we also found that there was a member spreadsheet, and it had like 230 people on it. It was a bit more, but like they had 4 of them were lapsed members, and a couple of them were duplicates. But there's 230 people who on this spreadsheet were counted as members. It was called the membership, CHUO membership list, the document was called. So we went with, we'll use this spreadsheet, plus we'll use the show hosts, and that's who we consider the membership. And yeah.
And all this information again on the link tree. We actually are going to post this PowerPoint presentation just in the interest of time.
Yeah. So it's not an official thing, but that's what we're going with. And we've tried to get the board to say, "Are you good with this?" And they kind of won't say anything sometimes. But yeah, it is what we are operating with. And the reason we're operating with it because there does need to be a new board, and an organization can't exist if there's no membership. Like it's all legitimate if there's no membership. So there has to be a membership, and this is the best thing we can come up with, the best definition. And what we are now talking about is holding this general meeting. And what's the slide? Yeah, and okay, so the one thing also, board members who are applying have to be members. So we have this membership list that we're just going over. But the thing is, if not the whole 6 board members get chosen, get voted in, say there's 1 or 2 spots that don't get chosen, they could be appointed by the 4 or 5 board members who did get voted in, and they don't have to be from the membership. So maybe this is especially relevant if you want to get an accountant on the board, which there's a treasurer, and it's good if they have some background. So maybe 1 or 2 spots on the board aren't from the membership because something like that happens. But, I mean, I'm sure Patricia or Sarah would have something to say. And the other good thing, we were talking with someone, and this was apparently a very good selling point, I think it is that so right now we're in July. So if this meeting was held in July or August, and then the annual general meeting is coming up by the end of the year, because it's not the annual general meeting election, they're all interim. So it is only like a 3-month time in the board, and if you don't want to keep on going after that, you can allow someone else to get voted in the annual general meeting. Or you'd have to get voted in again anyways. So it's not like a 2-year commitment right now. It's a short-term commitment to get things going on the right track. So we really are trying to push people, and it doesn't have to be yourself. It could be, yes, I'm going to make sure I talk with this person to see if they want to do it. But we do really need people who want to step up. That's the main thing. And there's another part to that.
Donc vraiment, il faut remplacer le conseil d'administration et ses membres, les personnes élues, un poste au sein de ce conseil d'administration, le seront par intérim et le mandat se poursuivrait jusqu'à l'Assemblée générale annuelle, donc qui se tiendrait d'ici décembre 2026. Donc, dans les 15 mois suivant l'Assemblée générale annuelle de l'année dernière, d'où 2025. Donc, c'est un mandat de 3 mois. Donc, si vous décidez que ça ne vous tente pas de continuer de siéger au sein de ce conseil d'administration-là, vous pouvez laisser votre place à quelqu'un d'autre.
And I think the last thing I'd want to say is that it's not only people running for the board that the station needs. It's like, because there's no money to have any staff, but you still want to do things to make sure things work. There's like the idea of having I think advisory and support committee, where we actually gather people together who aren't going to want to run for the board but do want to help, and try and organize those efforts so they can work with the board. And I think if this is the right slide, no, it's not the right slide. Keep on going, it's like right near the end.
Supporting the work of the board?
Is all the different areas to help with. I think I might be skipping something. Yes, this one.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't, yeah. So yeah, so there's like many different ways people can help. And I think it's all like really important right now that we actually get a good number of people doing things. So I think what we wanted to do, but we've got the bilingue.
Donc, il y a plusieurs façons d'aider le conseil d'administration une fois qu'il sera en place. Finances, collecte de fonds, sensibilisation, administration, très important. Tout ce qui est programmation, tout ce qui est aspect technique, etc., etc. Donc, il y a une longue liste de domaines dans lesquels vous pourrez aider.
And so the one thing is that every single word you saw in the slides, you can go to the Linktree 891 CHUO, and there's a PDF in French and there's a PDF in English. Just like 5 pages of all the information that was on here tonight. But the other part is that we want everyone to make sure you get another card, and then you write down your contact information, and you write down like if you want to be involved in some way, if there's some way you want to help, or some connection you have that would help. So we want to make sure we get people's contact information so that we can send out an update. I think some people probably got things direct from some of us, but some people probably heard it secondhand, and we want to make sure that people keep getting updates and we can actually build something. Because the station infrastructure itself isn't there anymore to connect people, how well it was doing it before, but we have to build something.
Alors, si vous êtes dans la salle, vous avez les fiches là-bas avec Mickey. Veuillez laisser vos coordonnées, surtout votre adresse courriel, pour que nous puissions vous envoyer des mises à jour concernant la station. If you're online, take note of the Linktree URL, and you can go there and submit ideas, questions, and your contact information so you can get updates. So we're going to get to the questions now, right, Greg? We are? Start looking at. So for the folks online, we're going to get to some of the live audience questions that we got.
Okay, so I just want to remind people what has been said. I mean, really what we need to do now is, first of all, you heard from Barry that we need the board. That's the key to allowing this organization to continue to function. Without a board, we cannot continue. And we need people to step up, to volunteer with the skills that they have, whether it is technical skills, whether it's skills and understanding of radio broadcasting, community radio, finance, marketing. I know Jackie Stewart was the director of marketing and finance at CHUO many, many years ago, but we have people in the room and outside and online and in the community who have those skills. Barry also spoke about bringing the community together. There he's talking about community power. So we need community power. We haven't had it so far. I have to say that we've had, people like Greg, we've had Sarah, we've had Nargis, we've had Mickey, who even after no longer being station manager continues to contribute. Thank you so much, Mickey. But we need more people. We need more human power. And then we have to start to ask those questions. Is radio what we do? Are we more? I think we're more. I think we're more than radio. So we need to think about another model, perhaps, that includes radio, but also other things. These are things for you to think about. I think we have some questions online. Donc, j'étais juste en train de dire, et je vais dire que Barry, il a concentré sur 3 choses pour continuer. Un conseil d'administration en santé. Sans un conseil d'administration, on ne peut pas avancer. Ça, c'est de 1. De 2, on doit bâtir la communauté. Donc, c'est-à-dire que nous avons déjà au sein de la salle les gens comme Jackie qui a une expertise dans le levée de fonds, dans le financement, dans le marketing. Nous avons besoin de toutes ces personnes pour nous aider. Jusqu'à ce point-là, on a des personnes comme Mickey, bien après qu'elle a été licenciée en tant que gestionnaire de la station de radio, qui continue à contribuer. Merci infiniment, Mickey. On a aussi Greg, Sarah, Nargis et d'autres membres de la petite communauté Restore CHUO qui ont contribué. Mais nous avons besoin des personnes pour nous aider, nous soutenir. Et la troisième question, je pense que Barry a posée, c'est est-ce que c'est radio qu'on veut faire ou est-ce qu'on peut faire autre chose? Moi, je pense qu'on peut faire aussi autre chose. C'est-à-dire que radio communautaire, c'est une partie de ce qu'on peut faire, mais on a aussi d'autres aspects de notre travail qui est vraiment un travail communautaire comme on le sait. Tu sais, lorsqu'on écoute Papa Richie un samedi, il est en train de bâtir la communauté. Donc, on fait plus que juste la radio communautaire. Ou on écoute Mikey Wisdom les samedis, c'est plus que la radio. Tu sais, on est en train de bâtir et de nourrir notre communauté. Donc, ce sont les 3 choses. S'il y a des questions, ce sont les questions en ligne qu'on va répondre à ces questions. Are there questions online? Okay. So, do we have any online questions?
Yes.
Chris?
That was one. That was it.
Okay.
Okay, so from Michelle, thank you, Michelle. How can folks become members during this period so that they can be considered for election?
I don't, is my mic working? Yeah?
Yeah.
I don't think people can, well, I mean, I think if there is a new board, they can implement the bylaws of how people become members again, or they can change the bylaws. If they change the bylaws, it has to be approved at an annual general meeting. But right now, I don't think there's any way to do it, and there is a 21-day rule, and hopefully there is a general meeting within 21 days, so it wouldn't be able to become a new member and vote anyways, or run. You have to be a member for a month to run for the board.
Donc la question c'est comment devenir membre. Et en ce moment, sans conseil d'administration, il est très difficile de déterminer comment on devient membre.
Okay, I have questions from Jackie. Has the board been replaced due to their mismanagement? The answer to that question is no. The board has not been replaced. That's the work that we need to do. From Jackie as well, was there any explanation from the board as to why they did nothing after the 2 referendums in the way of communications or strategic planning for sustainability? Anyone want to respond to that?
Not that I've seen.
Une réponse?
The one thing that I hadn't really realized, but then I realized when someone mentioned it, is that all the news of the closure came from station volunteers, came from station staff. It didn't come from the people who made the decision. They weren't in the media at all. And I wasn't like a station volunteer at the time, so I don't know if they were communicating with the station volunteers directly, but
And it's not because the media did not reach out to the chair of the board. Specifically, it's not. They chose to not address it publicly.
Okay, I have a question from Jason Saint-Laurent, which is if CHUO Apartment 613 and a couple of community newspapers come together, they could make a really cute baby.
Yeah.
Okay.
Awesome idea.
All right. I have from Anthony Theobald, at this time, who owns the CHUO license?
the people.
No, but CHO is the call letters, but who, like, what is the entity? Is it CIMA? It's CIMA, the Canadian Independent Media Arts Association? Center for Independent Media Arts. C'est ça, okay. Le Centre des médias et des arts indépendants owns that license.
And I'll just add to that, is it, so SEMA is what Radio Ottawa Inc. used to be. It's just they changed the name, but they also, in about 2020. And also, we're doing what Barry was talking about, and like Beyond Radio. It was like SEMA will be a thing that has diverse revenue streams, doesn't just focus on radio. But there's a whole story about what happened and everything.
I can explain that. So SEMA basically is like an umbrella, and CHO is like part of the umbrella. And the SEMA itself, what Aaron's plan is to actually get the revenue from training people and other stuff. So that's kind of like part of the plan.
Okay, for the people online who cannot hear you, SEMA was already diversifying CHEO's revenue streams by providing training and getting funding for special projects as well, and work study program initiatives.
Okay, I have another question. What is the minimum budget required to run the station? So I think we heard earlier that our last budget was just $500,000, so 500,000. That was our last budget, so.
But to add, are we, like what I was looking at is like what are the bare bones just to run the over the airwaves to keep that going, and it seems to be like, so it's like almost $30,000 to have the broadcaster on the antenna, and then it's maybe $20,000 to have the transmission room at the base of the antenna, and then you have to have like insurance.
The three insurance.
And maybe there's a broadcast license, but so it's like it's getting up to like
$100K.
maybe $60,000 or $70,000, and that's like with paying no one anything to run the stuff.
Right.
It's just like you have to have that if you want to. But and the thing is also, if you lose any of that, like there's no chance anymore really, because like if that transmitter came down from the antenna, it would cost like maybe,
you have to
from
pay
what I
for
heard,
it.
like $150,000 to put it back up.
Right.
It's like $30,000 a year rent, but if it comes down, you have to have a lot of money to get it back up.
Pour les francophones qui sont en ligne, c'est une très bonne question. Comment ça coûte? C'est quoi le minimum que ça coûte faire fonctionner une station de radio? Donc, il y a le coût de l'antenne, il y a la location de l'antenne à Camp Fortune. Il y a aussi la salle à la base de Camp Fortune. Ça, c'est quoi? $20,000? Il y a $30,000? Il y a $20,000? S'il faut renouveler la licence, ça va coûter encore quelques dizaines de milliers de dollars. Et vous n'avez pas de personnel. Vous n'avez pas encore embauché qui que ce soit pour gérer la station au jour le jour. Donc, même $100,000, ce serait vraiment le minimum.
Donc, on a une question en français. Quelle est la procédure pour constituer ou reconstituer un nouveau conseil d'administration? Je pense qu'on a déjà expliqué c'est quoi le processus. So we had a question here, what is the procedure to constitute or reconstitute a new board? And I think that has already been answered.
And the slide will be up at the link tree. So you can read it in detail.
Okay, another question, is there a way for us to connect to Chin Radio and build connections through them or figure out how they manage to operate independently?
Isn't Chin Radio commercial?
It is commercial.
We are not commercial, so we cannot be teaming up with a commercial entity. Ce serait très difficile de s'associer à une station de radio commerciale. Ça, c'est une autre licence complètement.
Oui, absolument.
Complètement,
Oui,
une
c'est
autre
une autre
licence.
licence.
Exactly. Yes. Carlton.
So another question from Jackie, what happened to the funds that were donated to the station when all the while the plan was to shut the station down?
Bonne question. Qu'est-ce qui est arrivé à l'argent qui a été, les dons qui ont été faits par les auditeurs et auditrices qui pensaient sauver la station alors qu'il avait été décidé de fermer la station? Qu'est-ce qui est arrivé? They were used to pay bills? That money was used to pay bills.
From TC Radford, it seems clear that the university isn't the space for this anymore. There's a need for this organization to restructure, and physical space is needed. So what is the plan in terms of moving forward? Conseil d'administration.
We would need a board to decide that. Ce serait au conseil d'administration de décider comment procéder maintenant qu'il n'y a plus d'argent pour avoir l'espace que nous avions sur le campus.
Do we have any other questions? Est-ce qu'il y a d'autres questions dans la salle? There are no more questions online.
And you can continue to submit questions at the link tree. Don't forget. You might go home and think of something.
Just looking at the bylaw, I think the bylaws need to change, because just looking at the bylaws, it looks like the students who were actually funding the radio station had no vote, which is really interesting to know that people who are actually funding the station have no say, basically. So if we want the student to come back, we just have to promise them that they have to be on the board and they should be able to vote. I asked a question about how do we move the station out of the campus into the community, and I think Greg was saying it probably be difficult to do. But I think, as you said, and as Barry said, we need to rethink the radio. The radio is just a tool, okay? So we need to rethink the radio. What is it that we do? And we think we do more than just being on the air. And so we need to find a way to make it attractive. When it's attractive, it's likely you have partners who are likely to be on board. Okay. I also asked a question, how do we leverage our license, okay, to be able to bring in strategic partners? There are many organizations who are looking to have a license. It's not easy getting a radio license these days. Okay. You already have a license. How do we partner with other organizations who are also looking to do something like that, to make sure the radio stays on air?
Oui, donc c'est de très bons commentaires, Hector. Comment trouver des partenariats avec des organismes qui s'intéressent aussi à la communauté, comme la station radio. Et il a parlé de déménager la station du campus. Le problème avec ça, the problem with that is like the antenna and, you know, all of the logistics involved with that and the cost involved with that. Already with the money problem that's there. But the main thing is, for any of these visions to come to life, you need a board. You need a board with that vision, with the wherewithal, with the expertise and with the commitment to the station and to the community. When I say the station, I include the volunteers, the show hosts, the different communities that are served, right? We're speaking in English and French. Mais CHUO, il y a aussi une émission en arabe. We have an Arab show. We've got Amharic with the Ethiopians. We have Somali. We've got the Slavic show, I believe. A number of Spanish language shows as well. So that board would also have to take that into consideration. And Creole, Haitian Creole. There were like 3 shows at one point serving the Haitian community in Creole.
And I have a question. We're gonna wrap up very shortly.
Yeah,
But I have a question from, this is online, from Bob Junkman from Radio Waterloo. And Bob asks, I think the Board of Radio, well, actually, it's a comment. I think the Board of Radio Waterloo would be happy to speak about our experience in transitioning the station after losing student funding. Potential partner.
Ce serait une très bonne idée. Donc, c'est quelqu'un de Radio Waterloo. Eux, ils ont vécu la même expérience de perdre le financement des étudiants. Et eux, ils seraient prêts à discuter avec CHUO de ce qu'ils ont bien fait pour survivre à cette perte de financement. Il va nous les transmettre, oui.
Oui, exactement. Donc, je pense qu'on a 2 questions dans la salle. Si vous pouvez juste vous rapprocher au micro, puis vous pouvez poser la question ici.
I got a bike here.
Excellent.
Okay. Just stepping back a minute. Somebody was talking just now about the money that was collected during the period, the debacle that went on there. People still meet me and ask me about it. I can't help them. Now, the thing about it, I just heard a minute ago that the money was used to pay debts. Unfortunately, that money that those people put up was not put up to pay debts. So whoever agreed to use that money the way they used it, did it illegally. Now we are still coming back and we have to, it's a community radio station. And we still want to come back and go back to those people again and ask for money. Now, I think that somewhere along the line we should get this board in place and apologize to these people or figure out a way of telling them what we're going to do to satisfy them. Because I think that whatever it was wrong.
You remember what was said when we did the donation? Wasn't it to pay for license, something like that? Wasn't the reason for the fundraising? It was to pay for
Whatever it was, the money was for a specific purpose, and it was not. It was not NOT used for that purpose. It was wrong.
So I agree with what you're saying. I think in terms of reparations or remedy for that situation, I want to go back to the board. We need a new board. So yes, so we're asking, there's a huge governance issue, and what you've raised points to the governance issue. So if you have skills, if you're able to make the commitment, and I would suggest or recommend that that commitment extend beyond 3 months. I know it's an interim board, but what the organization actually needs is a long-term commitment. So people who are willing to commit for at least 2 years. That's what I would say, if you want to keep the station running. So we need new board members. So if you are interested, please put your name down. Please put it in the box on the table where Mickey is. And please let us know what your skill is. Like if you have fundraising experience, if you have experience as a broadcaster, running a show, etc., please let us know. That's what's needed.
Et la même chose pour les gens en ligne. The people online, if you've been watching this session here and something is pushing you to want to do something to help restore and rebuild CHUO, please go to that link tree and put your name forward. Indiquez quelles sont vos compétences, vos domaines d'intérêt. Et oui, c'est ça. Nous avons vraiment besoin d'un conseil d'administration en bonne et due forme.
Oh, just one second. I think, Adrian, you had a question,
Yeah.
and then we'll go to Jean-Marie.
I had a question about the role of the university and the role of the university administration, because I think this is a ridiculous decision on the part of this educational institution. Like a community radio station, a campus community radio station, is such an asset to a university. Like it's something that should be used in the classroom. There's so many young people who could be benefiting from this, and I'm just bewildered that the university administration would be so short-sighted as to just get rid of what is a really valuable asset, an institution, and also an institution that's connecting it with its community, right? Like it makes the university relevant to a lot of people who don't really have any kind of connection to the University of Ottawa. So I'm just curious as to what the university administration's response was to all this thing going on about CHUO. Like, what were they saying about it? Because I haven't been there, so it's a real question I have.
There really wasn't much of a response to the media requests. Nobody wanted to talk from the University of Ottawa administration.
Were they approached?
Nobody
like, did
at
someone
all.
go to the president, or did someone go to any of the vice presidents?
That is the board's. That is the board's job to do that. But in terms of connecting with professors and students, Mickey can tell you about that. The station manager, towards the end, was doing a lot of work in that regard. Mickey.
And before Mickey responds, I just want to say that we've heard from the former board chair that the university has been approached. Do you recall? That the university was interested, that there was an interest in saving the station. Do you remember that there was a call where the former board chair had said, because I asked the same question, what is the relationship with the university? So that's what because we haven't been able to have open, transparent communication with the former board chair, I don't have the answer, unfortunately, to that question.
And
Mickey?
there's no trace in any form of whatever that communication is. It's for any of us listening to this, it's just hearsay because there's nothing formal, about those discussions. So Mickey, about working with the university.
So basically, like our main income actually come from work study student, of course. But during these years, like during my time that I'm a station manager, we trying to actually like go into like the classroom, give some info session. We even work with the Professor Radamis, who actually like become one of our show hosts. And we give a project with the student that like they do their podcast with us. Just to we give them grades and we play their podcast on our radio station, and we have like a session that I have to go to that classroom even though I have to run for my doctor's appointment. I still have to sacrifice that myself, but definitely we have lots that we work with students, and we have the student initiative for the show. That, like, for example, the Animal House as a show after my show that I have 2 students with me. I don't know where she's. One of them is there. But one more important story is actually my co-host right here, Belinda. She's actually decided to actually wrote an email to the.
Basically, I wrote a letter directly to the president of U Ottawa, addressing the situation that happening at CHU at that point, and I also gathered like a lot of signatures from the U Ottawa students and the handwriting signatures attached at the end of the letter, but she never responded to the email. And then I think I heard when we go through the referendum form on that phase, and she said she never heard about it. Like, she never heard about what's happening at CHUO. So
I'm just going to jump in here because I think what's needed is direct communication with the president of the university. That has to happen through the board, the new board. And that's relationship building. And that's what a board is supposed to do. So any new board would have to build or rebuild those relationships. I do understand, Mickey, from what you're saying, and it's good to hear that CHUO previously was doing work with Ottawa youth students and had programs, work-study programs. But what's needed at this point is an actual discussion at the highest level to establish, I would say reestablish, rebuild relationships.
C'est ça. Donc ça, c'était une question à propos des relations entre la station et l'université. Et la personne qui a posé la question se demandait comment ça se fait que l'université n'appuie pas justement la station. Et Mickey nous dit que, en fait, c'est pas parce qu'il n'y a pas d'interaction entre la station et l'université et les professeurs. Mais ce que Pat vient de dire, c'est qu'il faut avoir une communication directe entre le conseil d'administration, pas juste une personne, le conseil d'administration, rétablir ces liens-là et rebâtir.
Et ce que j'ai aussi ajouté avant, c'est que moi, j'ai entendu sur un appel, donc l'un des appels que le président ancien, président sortant, merci, du conseil d'administration, qu'il a dit qu'il a commencé ou recommencé à avoir des liens, des discussions avec l'administration de l'Université d'Ottawa. Donc, moi, je l'ai entendu. Il n'a pas nommé la personne, mais il a simplement dit qu'il y avait un intérêt, surtout parce qu'il s'agit d'une station de radio bilingue et francophone aussi. Donc, oui, ça, je l'ai entendu. Je ne sais pas s'il y a d'autres personnes qui l'ont entendu. Je l'ai noté.
Yes, I wanted to just quickly add a little bit more about the discussion with the president. With the Yeah, actually, sorry about that. My name is Yasmin. I was one of the project managers for the work-study program. My job was to introduce students to different departments who work with CHUO. Most of the things I've seen was with the transition from the previous president to the new one, there was a lot of stuff she had to take over, such as what happened with the rebuilding of the Tabaret lawn. It was shut down. There's a lot of like new infrastructure and stuff she had to worry about. But they do have meetings with students. The problem is the timing was awful. They had like have a coffee with the president's session for students only, and it was right before exam time. So students barely hear about it. Oftentimes they don't check their emails. There's a lot going on campus that they say, they do have these opportunities, but usually people either don't hear about it, they don't have time for it. So that becomes really difficult. And considering what was happening over the years after COVID, I've been a student for about 7 years against my will, and I can tell you with certainty the university has had a lot of budget cuts. They shut down the daycare center. They have had issues with trying to find housing for international students. There's been a lot of problems. Even some places they're not hiring professors, they're just bringing in PhD candidates as part-time professors to do the teaching. So there is actual decline when it comes to the university's budget, and the problem is because it's such a big establishment, you have to be in the know to know. And again, this comes back to the conversation of transparency, but this has been a problem with U Ottawa for a while. And as you mentioned, it's concerning that the students have shut down the campus radio. We had a lot more opportunities for students in Faculty of Arts with communications. We had a lot of students from Tabaret because it's a very competitive field over there. So we were doing really well in that regard, but the issue still lies with the fact that it's very broad. They don't even have internal communication with their own staff. So even if they have initiatives for programs, because they're not communicating with each other, they end up shutting them down. It's just money being wasted and money that the university is not allocating properly. And then when it comes to this new president, she's also bombarded with this information, thinks, I've never heard of CHUO. I don't know what's going on here. which is genuinely unfortunate. But I wanted to offer this perspective that the university has been going through budget cuts. They've been going through a whole process. They're no longer hiring people. They used to have doctors for students, but they moved from one location to Minto Sports Complex. They no longer have doctors available. It's harder for students to get, and doctor visits. They start to get better, but again, certain departments have shrunk, and it's a major university-wide problem. So if we can find a way to build that connection back up again, if we can promise them more money, I think it would be a good avenue to go to, but the bureaucracy is genuinely hellish. And that was one of the things I wanted to make sure people understand, because especially as someone who was part of other student governments and would hear about what's going on with the actual student association itself, there is a lot going on, and so much of it has not been brought to light. And because usually students are too busy with school, they're not pushing for these information to become transparent. So a lot of things get swept under the rug.
So thank you for the context. I think that's important to understand what the university context is, and that's the kind of perspective that we need on the board. So on the new board, we need that kind of perspective. So if you're interested, please put your name down, because we do need new board members. What I will say, though, that the students did not shut down CHUO. So CHUO is a community radio station. If the community allows the station to shut down, that's the community. It's not just the students of Ottawa U that shut down this radio station. It's a community. It's all, no. I'm just saying it's a community radio station, right? It has been since its inception. We're going to wrap things
Juste
up.
pour résumer,
Oui,
c'était
oui,
la
oui.
perspective justement de l'Université d'Ottawa, de la part d'une étudiante à l'université,
Oui.
qui nous rappelle qu'il y a un contexte financier très difficile à l'Université d'Ottawa, qui dure depuis plusieurs années. Il y a des programmes qui ont été coupés, il y a des professeurs qu'on n'embauche plus, ils ont dû déménager certains services, couper certains services. Les étudiants sont complètement dépassés, fatigués, trop d'examens, etc. Alors, il y a toutes ces conditions réunies pour que CHUO, le dossier CHUO, comme tombe dans l'oubli, quoi, de cette pauvre nouvelle présidente qui a tout ça à gérer. Donc, la station de radio, ce n'est qu'un dossier parmi tant d'autres qui sont urgents pour elle. Donc, merci pour cette perspective.
Absolument. So could I get a time check? Because I think we need to wrap this up. It's 9:30. Okay. So we are going to wrap this up. And in order to wrap up, Adrian, do you want to come to the mic? We're doing a great job. You might have a couple of words to close off, along with Greg and Sarah.
And many, many thanks to CKCU, Chris White, and Nathan. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Because this effort, like Greg, myself, Pat, Nargis, and whoever else who was part of Restore CHUO, personally, I don't think I would have had the strength if I didn't see the amount of support and the way CKCU is really rooting for us. And Barry said earlier that we're not in competition. We're part of an ecosystem, and we're stronger because CKCU is stronger, and CKCU is stronger because we exist and are stronger. So thank you, CKCU.
Yeah. Okay, so Jean-Marie has asked, do we have somebody who can help us, a lawyer or something like that, with this situation? Again, I want to go back to le conseil d'administration. Donc, s'il y a des personnes qui ont des expériences juridiques ou autres avec les organismes à but non lucratif, c'est le moment de mettre votre nom dans la boîte et puis d'écrire clairement c'est quoi exactement votre expertise. You have to be a member, yes. So,
The reason why you have to be a member, because before we closed down, we won a national award as the Canadian Choice Award 2026 winner for the radio.
CHUO? Look at that.
And we got announced on December 15, 2025 or 2026.
Okay. So Mickey, I want you to come up here. I want you to come up here, please.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Take the microphone, please.
Okay, so basically the day that we announced that we closed down, I got the email from the Canadian Choice Award that CHUO won in category of radio station from Ottawa. Because like actually there was CKCU as well, there was another radio station as well, but I'm not so sure why, but actually thank you everybody who actually voted for CHUO. And apparently I supposed to go to get an award myself, but because the ticket is so expensive, it's $700 for ticket. And I didn't go, but anyway, we are winners. So that's the reason why you guys should join the board. We need a new board. And I think I have some clips that I want Nathan to play. It's actually from CTV News. I want you guys to see that students are not the person who closed the station. The students fight for you guys. In the past winter, in the cold. Can you play that, Nathan? Yeah. So basically, the clip that we are going to play is from the CTV. I still remember that Belinda was one of them. She's actually like she fought a lot for us too. Like the whole student, I want to give them like a big round of applause for like keep fighting for CHUO. I still remember that I ran to the second cup to get them like a hot chocolate because it's really cold. Yeah, I think he tried to upload it. But if you're on the group of CHUO Rising Star, you will see that clip I already sent already. But that keep, like, like kind of.
Radio station. After 50 years, CHUO 89.1 FM will go radio silent on Monday.
Oh,
it was unable to raise the funds needed to stay on the air and now is preparing to shut down operations.
Yeah.
So Kimberly Fowler joins us live in studio with more on this. Kimberly.
I still remember we tried to find a way that we make sure that all the people in the office see that students fight for it. And yeah, what we heard is kind of shocked us that they said they don't hear anything. It really surprised us a lot. Yeah.
So are we able to get it on? The screen? It's playing on the screen. Okay. We may not be able to get it here. It will? Okay. Let me get out of the way.
Okay.
Well, it's a devastating blow to the University of Ottawa's campus radio station. After 50 years, CHUO 89.1 FM will go radio silent on Monday. It was unable to raise the funds needed to stay on the air and now is preparing to shut down operations. CTV's Kimberly Fowler joins us live in studio with more on this. Kimberly.
Well, Patricia, the campus station was first established in 1975 and for 5 decades has been the voice and a lifeline for many communities and demographics across Ottawa.
It's their voice they need to keep. They need to save their voice.
A small group of student volunteers from the station were out protesting the closure outside Taberry Hall today. Over the past 2 weeks, the station has been trying to raise $150,000 by the December 15th deadline to stay on the air. But CHUO's board of directors decided it was too much, ending the campaign, meaning the station will shut down. Now, some of the station's hosts say the station helped provide support to overlooked groups in the community.
We represent underrepresented voice. We represent the community that haven't been heard anywhere else, or even on the mainstream.
People are really upset. people are bewildered, as we are, as to the lack of transparency. And people really feel like there was not enough of a fight put up to save CHUO.
Some close to the station say the writing's been on the wall for about 2 years now when Ottawa students voted in a referendum to end a special levy that sent funding to the station. Now, they say since then, the station's board of directors haven't been able to find or coordinate other streams of revenue. Now, although CHUO will go silent on Monday, the station will continue airing pre-recorded content until March, and that's to fulfill an existing contract with CRTC licensing. Patricia.
CTV's Kimberly Fowler live for us tonight. Thank you.
Okay, so let's hope that's not going to be the end of our story. I would like to thank Mickey, really, sincerely, for all the work that you've done and all the volunteer hours that you've put in of labor well after the station, was on reduced operations. Thank you very much, Mickey. I'd also like to give a shout out to Greg for all the coordinating that he has done for the Restore CHUO. Obviously, the people at Saw Gallery, thank you very much for making this space available to us, to Barry O'Rourke and Sarah Onyango for the incredible translation. Merci beaucoup, Sarah, c'est vraiment apprécié. And Nathan and Chris from CKCU, we are partners and friends. We are not in competition with other campus community radio stations. And I'll just leave a last word for my brother. Go ahead.
So I'm going to be really brief because you've heard a lot. There's a lot of words have been spoken today. My son is 15, and my son is he's a musician now, and he's a music head. And I attribute my son's love of music in part to his connection to CHUO. My son loved Papa Richie and loved Mikey Wisdom, loved them, more than probably any of their listeners. My son adored that program. He idolized these DJs. That's the kind of impact that this station has had. This station has helped to build, really build our community, right? It's allowed our community to dream, right? It's allowed our community to develop real skills, right? Real skills. It's allowed our communities to tell our stories unfiltered, right? That's a very, very powerful thing. We understand in this moment the value, the power of narrative, right? Of storytelling, right? We had this platform, and this platform needs to be preserved. This platform is our memory. It's our archive, right? It's our heartbeat, right? It's something that powers our communities. And I think that it's really incumbent upon those of us, like myself, I wouldn't be where I am without CHUO. I wouldn't be, right? The CHUO provided me with a space where I could be creative and try things. So I really think that we owe it to the future generations to preserve this space, to preserve the spirit of the kind of community that campus community radio stations build. Right? We're living at a time where everyone is so separated. That station brought us all together, right? So I think I'm just preaching to the converted right now. I think what we have to do is just recognize the power that we have, right? There are a lot of skills in this room. It's clear people have a lot of different qualities that they can add to helping to preserve the space. I think if we organize ourselves, we can change this. Right, and we can restore CHUO and build it and make sure that it's there, 50 years from now. So thank you all for being here, for showing, demonstrating your commitment, your dedication to CHUO, and onward. And I think was there something else? Did I miss? No, and let's just move forward and build this thing. Thank you.